Okay. Hold on. Okay, am I too dark or is it just how dark my hair is? Good God.
All right, Commissioner Frisbee, you are live.
All right, I call to order the May 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Gary Tompkins,
Present.
Commissioner Kathy Suvetti,
Here.
Commissioner Rochelle Hatcher,
Present.
Commissioner Jake Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Steve Frisbee,
Present.
Commissioner Derek King, we'll come back. I know he's there. Commissioner
Present.
Tom Miller. Okay.
Present.
It shows
Quorum.
You have
It
quorum?
Derek's muted.
He's there. All right, we'll have a moment of silence where I'd like you to keep in mind the 17 citizens of Calhoun County and their families who've lost their life in the COVID-19 issue. And after that moment of silence, Commissioner King will lead us in a pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Commissioner King? Yeah, we lost him.
He's still mute. I think he's still muted.
Yeah, he looks like he's frozen. Commissioner Miller, you want to take that duty tonight? Lead us in the pledge, please.
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
Indivisible.
liberty and
and
justice for
And
all.
justice for all.
Right. I can tell there's a little bit of time lag there.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Kim. We'll wait just a second for Derek to try to jump back in here. Not sure. All right, we'll move along. Need approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the May 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session agenda as presented?
Support.
Have a motion from
Vetty.
Support. Hatcher.
any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Still trying to get back in. I think. One moment.
Sure.
Nope, not from him. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners April 14th, 2020 equalization session as presented?
Still moved.
So move Tompkins.
Support
Supported
Miller.
by Miller. All right, any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King. I'll keep asking until he rejoins. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
6 yes.
I think his dog voted yes too.
Yeah.
Next on citizens time. Next item on the agenda is citizens time. During citizens time, the board chair shall recognize any person wishing to address the board. Person recognized by the chair shall call in and state his or her name and community of residence. A person may address the board only once on the same matter during each period set aside for citizens time on the agenda and only matters that are relevant to county government. The chair shall control the length of time each person shall be allowed to speak and shall not exceed 3 minutes and shall not allow any negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer When calling in, as the background noise will generate feedback. Please note that there is approximately a 10-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Are there any citizens who would like to address the commissioners? Any citizens? Austin, how long of a lag do we have tonight?
I would say it's about 30 to 40 seconds. The call-in screen's been up for a while though.
Anyone who would like to address their commissioners? All right. Nobody popping up, Austin?
No new callers in.
Okay. We'll move along to elected and appointed county officials. I just wanted to say that Sheriff Hinckley was going to be with us tonight, and he's now out with the dive team. They may have found what they were looking for, so he may join us later. Is there any elected or appointed county officials that would like to speak? Kim?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, just a quick update. We are making plans to start appointments for certain services in our office in Marshall only on May 18th. So we are in the process of working those details out, finalizing, and we'll be making appointments for certain items, updating our website to that, and our voicemail as well. So I'm trying to get things back rolling and get a little bit more revenue safely back into our office. So that's all I really have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We have somebody from the probate court. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, this is Judge Jackinet, and I usually have a pretty good grasp of the Zoom feature, but I can't tell if I'm on the screen or not, but hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have throughout the meeting as it relates to the court operations. I participated in the meeting earlier today with Kelly Scott and the other department heads, and Judge Halsey was also there. So just letting you know that we're working through issues related to ramping back up towards some level of reopening, but there is a direction from the Supreme Court that came out yesterday, an administrative order and accompanying guidelines, and we're in the process of reviewing those and implementing those in conjunction with the county health officer and the sheriff and county operations. So that's a process that we're engaging in right now.
Thank you. Any other elected or appointed county officials? Don't see any hands up. All right, we'll move along. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda of the May 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session as presented?
So moved, Miller.
Support, Betty.
Miller and Vetty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next is special committee and workshop and board reports. Any commissioners want to report on those?
Wow.
Kathy Sue?
Thank you. I'm like, I know there's a way to raise my hand. I was looking for my button. Summit Point had their first board meeting. That was a Zoom meeting. And it was actually our annual meeting. It was on Tuesday, and we did our election of officers, and then our committee chairs, and committee member Dr. Lunger suggested that we keep the slate as it was. So meaning that nobody else wanted to be board chair. So I'm still the board chair. And Kelly is also still serving as treasurer. Richard Lindsay is our vice chair, and Deb Davis is our secretary. So, and I know Kelly, I think Kelly's going to report on some of the other things that are going on, but Summit Point's been having a good month.
Thank you. Commissioner Tompkins?
Thank you, Chair. The Senior Millage Allocation Committee met virtually on Friday, May 1st. We took some time to just kind of see how everybody was, how everybody's been doing. We also looked at potential rescheduling our strategic planning session for August sometime, as well as we approved some mini grants to the Haven of Rest, as well as Albion Community Gardens and the South Central Michigan Food Bank as well. Our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, June 5th, 2020. That will also be used in a virtual format as well, as we're already planning ahead for that. And then also tomorrow, the Homer Lake Board will be having its first virtual meeting tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Tuesday, May 12th at 4 p.m. So those are my reports for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Don't forget to put your hand down, because I don't get to do that for you. Thank you. Parks and Recs met this afternoon in a Zoom meeting as well. Our major discussion was whether to continue with the ballot millage request. On a 6-1 vote, I voted no, everybody else voted yes. After some pretty good discussion, we decided to keep that on the ballot for now. So we'll see what happens. It's not that I'm against it. I think it's probably a good request. I'm just worried about the timing, but I think we got a lot of dedicated people that will help push it. So we'll see what happens. And there was a good update too from Doug about plans that are already in action that are a result of a lot of grant work and some private donations as well. So a lot of good things happening in the parks. We don't have any unfinished business. I don't see any other hands. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to new business, County Administrator and Controller Kelly Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that we got some increased ability to meet virtually with the governor's executive order that temporarily modifies the Open Meetings Act, we have started seeing some of our local community boards and committees starting to meet. A lot of them canceled, most of them canceled meetings during March and April, and now they have critical items to take care of, such as Kathy Sue mentioned, with annual meetings to elect officers and adopting budgets for fiscal years that start in July 1st. So on that note, I do have a few updates from committees and boards. I'll start first with Summit Point. So as Commissioner Vetti reported, we met on Tuesday, May 5th. One of the important things that we did was the financial audit for Summit Point's fiscal year that ended September 30, 2019. It was a very favorable audit with no internal controls findings, I think for the second year in a row. Summit Point is a local unit of government. So just like the county, they are standing by to figure out what's going to happen when the state figures out how to balance their budget for this fiscal year ending October and then into next fiscal year, just with overall reduced revenues. What does that mean? How do they prioritize mental health services in the mix of all of that need to reduce budgets? But for the audit report, that was good. We also asked the board the board approved a contract with Enterprise Fleet Management. So the county uses Enterprise to take care of all of our fleet management requirements from acquisition to disposition and fueling and maintenance. And so We were happy to recommend that Summit Point consider that situation as well. They're able to get just as good of a pricing deal as any of the cooperative bids like My Deal that are around. So that happened. Also, our Battle Creek Rotary Club has started meeting via Zoom every week, and they've asked me along with others to give updates on county government, but also on the COVID response, our Joint Operations Center update. And our Rotary Club is, in a situation that a lot of nonprofits are, where, a lot of the fixed expenses continue, but then revenues that are based on participation and attendance are, down a little bit for this fiscal year. So we'll be having a board meeting on tomorrow, and I'll provide the treasurer's report for that. The Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance, or MEDA, met on Friday, May 1st, and that was a special board meeting to discuss specific programs where we're dedicating fund balance that is over and above our required reserves to create a Marshall area COVID-19 relief fund to provide small businesses mainly, and now nonprofits, with grants that are hope to help them just, weather the storm, since a lot of them cannot be open right now for the foreseeable future. And then finally, just want to mention the Michigan Association of County Administrative Officers, or MACO. Our board met in late April. We approved a new logo and just streamlining the website. And then also I attended some of the MAC, Michigan Association of County, virtual conference sessions. And I know I saw Commissioner Tompkins on several of them. I'm not sure about others of you, but a lot of them were focused on budget impacts. They were a little bit depressing, but also just want to make sure that you know that our finance staff under the leadership of Megan Banning and Gerald Shepke are very much connected to all kinds of webinars and guidance related to COVID-19 budget impacts. And we are pretty comfortable that we know what opportunities we have to get every possible funding that we can in reimbursement for any of the county's costs, and also the Joint Operations Center. The next big step related to revenues and to the county's budget is the Revenue Estimating Conference for the state is scheduled for May 15. So we will see what those documents reveal, and then the state is expected to explain how they're going to react to those reduced revenues by the end of May. And so again, we're roughly projecting somewhere around a 10% overall revenue drop for our fiscal year. We'll be doing our normal mid-year budget review, even though, we're monitoring revenues on a live basis, but hoping that for the most part, property tax revenues, almost half of our budget, is somewhat protected for this year. But then looking at the local revenue sources, such as our clerk Kimberly Hinckley mentioned, it's good that we're able to start ramping up some of those services. But then mainly, what happens with the state budget. Other items such as hotel accommodations tax are obviously suffering. And so to that end, as I reported to you via email last Friday, we are getting ready to implement, starting as early as tomorrow, which is the beginning of a pay period, voluntary furlough program for county and court employees that will run all the way through July. So we have right now about 50 employees that will be furloughed. They're not all for the same duration, and that does not include the road department. We're still working through what that means for road department operations. So we asked for volunteers. We did not recruit people. That's one thing I wanted to note. We're covering employee benefits through this whole time, and even covering the employees' cost share premium. The second thing I want to note is it's also not an entitlement. So we asked for volunteers, but then we left it to our department heads and elected officials to continue to evaluate what essential services they need to provide to our public, how to get that done, and to what extent we could do that without these employees reporting for work for the next few months. There's also the extra COVID-19 unemployment benefits that were just extended last night that really make this an even more feasible option for the county's budget and also for employees. What we mainly saw were employees that have been home already that either have some underlying health concerns that make them really not report to work if we require that, and or they have children that are home from school, and it would just, you know, now that we're operating under our stay home orders and reduced county operations, I feel this is a really proactive solution, and I'm not saying it's the only solution. We're definitely going to be doing a pretty critical review of the budget, and we may have to take extra measures once we figure out more details on that. But this one is one of them to try to get ahead of the extent to which we're going to need to make tough cuts. So I think my last update is just, you know, with regard to our joint operations and the stay home orders and our plans to reopen. We have been working with countywide leadership on a weekly basis on reopening plans for the last couple of weeks. So since our last board meeting, believe it or not, we've had 3 new executive orders directly extending the stay home, stay safe order. Back on April 24, there was executive order 2020-59. That was rescinded and replaced with number 70. And then just today, the latest is number 77. That really didn't change anything from a county government perspective. It really just added the ability for manufacturing operations to open up slowly. So the good news is that all of the planning that we have done continues, and we're in really good shape from a facilities standpoint. We have measures that Brad and his team are leading to make sure that we have signage and markers and barriers in place for social distancing in all of our buildings with all of our departments. And from a PPE standpoint, we have ordered through the Joint Operations Center masks and gloves and other special PPE for county employees. And we expect all of those things to be in place because we were expecting to start reopening on sort of a phased basis on May 18. We should be ready for that by then. And then also we have a document, a preparedness document that was required actually with Executive Order number 59 that MMRMA, our Risk Management Authority, prepared a draft of. We've finalized all of those documents and had a big discussion, as Judge Jacquinette mentioned today, with all of our countywide leadership. So I think we understand our roadmap to reopening. We'll be bringing the preparedness document to the Board of Commissioners on May 21, just because it's required that you formally adopt that. But it's consistent with the CDC guidance. It's consistent with what we've been hearing from Eric Pessel, who I'll ask to speak in just a moment. And it's consistent with OSHA guidelines, and pretty much, you know, all of the documents are corresponding at this point. And then the latest piece that we got last night was the Supreme Court administrative orders plan for phasing the courts to a full operation over a four-phased plan. And then today, with the governor's executive order, we also received her 6-phase Safe Start Michigan plan. So we're going to revise our language. We're continually sort of revising the document so that we're not confusing the public and confusing all of our employees and all of you. I'm putting that together soon, but probably as of next week, we'll be able to present to you kind of our reopening plan that corresponds with the phases. The dates are really what continue to sort of be a moving target. So, you know, right now we need to extend our closure of our public facilities through May 28, according to this latest executive order. But you will see, as Clerk Hinckley mentioned, we have most of our employees and most of our services are mandated and or they're essential to support or sustain life already. So to that end, we will be seeing employees that maybe weren't reporting to work before being required to report in work. Another example may be our appraisers within the Equalization Department. Our road workers have already come back to full operation. So we have that flexibility because we know that some of our employees are essential, and as the seasons change, the need for them to work is different. So you may see that over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be moving into what the governor's calling phase 4 at this point, as far as we know, starting with May 29. So with that, I would like to ask Eric Pessel, our health officer, to just give you a brief public health update about where we're at overall as a county with our COVID-19 experience and our cases and his advice as to where we should go next.
Thanks, Kelly. Can everybody hear me okay? Just give me a
Yes.
thumbs up. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So, well, hey, good evening, everyone. I think most of you have been keeping up with our, what we post on our websites and what we've been providing at our joint information, Wednesday joint information, 1 o'clock updates, and also the Joint Operations Center daily updates. So I'm not going to bore you with numbers, but we are seeing a decline. A good news, we're seeing a decline in our infection rates, seeing a decline in our hospitalizations, our daily hospitalizations, which is all good news. It means we're doing the right things. People are, for the most part, practicing good social distancing measures and doing what's been needed. And I know it's been difficult, and we hear it every day, and we're just continually trying to push the message of it's going to get better. We're going to start to open. I think today was a big day for construction and real estate, and I think from the governor's press conference this afternoon, we're going to start to see manufacturing next week. Which will be a huge deal here locally. Once those folks are ready with their workplace requirements in order, I think you're going to start to see them open up. And what brings that, or with that, is we're going to be keeping a close eye on our positives and our infection rates, and our close eye on our hospitals to make sure that we're not slipping back or seeing a spike potentially on the horizon. But for now, we look really good in Calhoun compared to some others. And I guess my advice is we just need to keep doing what we're doing. And I think we're ready to move forward by the end of the month. So we talked to the department heads today, and they all agreed that we think we have a good plan, as Kelly said, and we'll continue to phase open as we go. So any questions or anybody have any thoughts? I'm available.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. So then we'll move on to new business. We have a fairly short agenda tonight. The first item is 12B1. And on my PDF packet, that's on page 39. So this is an annual request that you've seen since 2012, since we assumed the duties of the road department. And this is, the road department continues to monitor the inventory of our bridge structures. There are 87 of them throughout the county. And, as they do with any other funding sources, this is a specific funding source that we're able to apply and tell them what priority bridges need to be fixed. And then it's a 2-year in advance request. So this is the requirement that we have the board submit basically letters of support that these 9 bridges are the ones that we would request funding for in 2023. The county would have a 5% match that would need to be built into the road department budget. And I believe John Midgley, our managing director, is here, and I'd like him to just elaborate a little bit more on where these bridges are and how they're prioritized. If John's here.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted, so.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, what these are, as Kelly said, is, we apply for a number of structures. It's, not all of them will be selected. These totaled a little over $5 million. They are located in 8 of our townships, which is Athens, Burlington, Bedford, Clarendon, Emmett, Lee, Marengo, and Teconcha. Let's see, the 4 of them are actual structure replacements. The other 5 are heavy maintenance. So reworking the structure that's there. I believe, unless somebody has a question, that's kind of the highlights of this. The resolutions of support are required. The engineering department will be reaching out to townships for support. Also, more of those you have, the more it helps your point totals as they go through rating these structures.
I can't find him to raise my hand.
Steve, you're muted. There you go.
You wanted to do that to me for a year and a half?
I'm trying to raise my hand. I can't find where to raise my hand at.
Tommy, let's get a motion first and then we'll,
Okay.
okay. Can I have a motion to support the proposed improvement of 9 National Bridge Inventory bridge structures and authorize the road department to seek funding assistance for the preventative maintenance, rehabilitation, or replacement of said structures through the State of Michigan Department of Transportation Local Bridge Program, which shall administer the project as part of the local agency program as presented.
So moved, Tompkins.
Miller. Support Miller.
Motion Tompkins, support from Miller. Tommy, Commissioner Miller, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. There's a 23-mile over Kalamazoo River right there on the south end of Marengo Village. That's only that bridge is only about probably less than 10 years old. And the 22-mile road over St. Joe Rivers is just north of Nagels there, I believe. And that's a pretty new bridge also. So these are complete bridge replacements that we're trying to get grants for?
No. The 22-mile road over St. Joe is some sealing and expansion joint replacement. That one's a total of $116,000 for that one. I'm sorry, Commissioner Miller, which other bridge were you asking about?
The 23-mile road over Kalamazoo River. Isn't that just on the south end of Marengo Township or Marengo Village?
That's the same type. That's more of that preventive heavy maintenance. That one's estimated at $128,000. Just to give you like the replacement of the old 20s on Old 27 over the St. Joe River, right there in Teconcha, estimating that is a little over $2 million, just to give you an idea of the differences.
Okay. And that, I thought we voted on that last year, the one in Teconcha, for some reason.
So, yes, we keep submitting it and we'll keep submitting it until we get funding for it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
They have changed it. They used to, years ago, you would apply for a bridge, it would stay in the system, and unless you wanted to update it for some reason. Now, nowadays, they evaluate them and then they are gone. You have to resubmit the following year if you're still interested.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate it on the 22-mile over St. Joe. I was just going to ask the same question, but you took care of it there. And then just two other real quickly. The old 27 bridge over the State and Indian Creek, is that a full redo on that bridge?
Yes, that is.
So what's your approximate cost on that? I'm just curious.
That one is obviously a smaller structure. It's $668,000.
Okay, that's a full redo. And then the old 27 over Indian Creek as well, that one, is that a full structure replacement?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
and that
also
one, I'm sorry.
659,000 is the
Gotcha.
estimate.
Nope, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. 12B2 starts on page 50 of our board packets. And this is a request for your approval of a bond authorizing resolution for 2020 general obligation limited tax bonds. This is really the last step in what we need the board's approval to go ahead and secure financing for the county's share, 50% share of the Emmett Township Local Road Improvement Project. And then 2 million of that include various projects within the county's deferred maintenance and capital improvement plan. We attached the list of those items that total the 2 million. And just to kind of recap, this process really started in May 2019 with Emmett Township seeking and successfully getting voter approval for them to issue a similar amount in financing for their 50%. In August 2019, you approved an IRS resolution that allows the road department to take these proceeds and reimburse their budget for items that have already been spent, which obviously a lot of this prep work has already been underway. And then in November 2019, you approved the construction contract with Lakeland Asphalt. In January 2020, you approved the agreement with Emmett Township that obligates us to make sure that we have funding for our share. And then in February 2020, you approved the notice of intent that required us to publish in local newspapers this notice of intent and allow for a 45-day referendum period. And so all of that has passed successfully, and this is really just the last step. Understanding the financial environment and the economy and the risks out there, I did invite our financial advisors from Benzinski and Company and also from our bond counsel from Miller Canfield. So at this point, I would like to ask Bobby Benzinski and or Stephen Hayduck to just give us kind of understanding of what the municipal bond market looks like right now and what we should expect. And then I think Bill Danhoff is on the call also in case you have any questions regarding the legality of the bonding. So Bobby, let me ask you to make a couple of remarks.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, commissioners. The bond market got real crazy when the COVID-19 started. The market has pretty much come back to levels that are very close to where they were before the COVID-19 situation started. With this bond issue, we are looking at interest rates that are probably still below 3%. There are buyers out there. The one thing that we are recommending, given that the market can be a little jittery day by day, we are recommending that we do a negotiated sale. Unlike normally we would do a competitive bid sale for this type of transaction. We've done negotiated sales with the pension obligation bonds. And because of the market uncertainty, a negotiated sale allows us the flexibility of changing the sale date if we have to at the very last minute. We are also recommending that Emmett Township do a negotiated sale so that both sales get conducted on the same day, both deliveries take place. We know that Emmett then has their money. We also know that Calhoun County has their money. So with that, I will entertain any questions. Bill, do you have any comments?
No, I really don't. I think Kelly did a great job in summarizing this. As far as the bonds, unlike the pension bonds, I just note these bonds will be done on a tax exempt basis. So the interest rate will be lower than the pension bonds.
As far as the timeline, I just wanted to add too that we are trying to get this done within the next 45 days and have delivery of the funds by the end of June.
Right, we would secure an interest rate mid-June and a delivery by June 30.
All right, can I have a, go ahead.
Emmett Township is going to adopt their resolution. Well, they're going to present their resolution. I can't predict what they'll do. They will have their resolution a week from tonight.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the attached bond authorizing resolution for up to $16 million $500,000 in capital improvement bonds for the financing of road department capital projects, including the Emmett Township Local Road Improvement Project and other county facility improvements, capital equipment and furnishings, and authorize the county administrator controller to execute necessary procedures and documents to procure such equipment within the parameters specified in the resolution.
So moved. Betty?
Support Miller.
Motion by Vetty, support by Miller. Any discussion? The only question I had, Bobby, is Emmett Township using you as well?
Yes, they are.
Good. That's good. Good for us and them, I believe.
Thank you.
All right. No questions? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah.
Commissioner Frisbee? Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a great weekend. Be safe, stay healthy.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
The last item under new business tonight is 12B3. This is the first quarter 2020 financial statements for the county. We've incorporated the road department into the same document. And before we talk about this, I just want to mention that obviously we're in May now, and we have some preliminary figures for our fiscal year 19 year end that ended in December. Our finance staff are continuing to finalize with our auditors that audit that's due to the state by June 30th. And so at our next meeting, we'll do a recap of how we ended the last fiscal year, which we did end with the balanced budget. And we're able to do that with a small increase to our fund balance. Of course, that was before we started to see any of the effects of COVID-19. And actually, I'm going to ask Megan Banning, our Deputy Controller, to give you highlights from the first quarter. We typically don't give you financial statements January, February, March, so this is the first time you've seen financials from this fiscal year. And keep in mind, this is just through March, just the first quarter. So with that, I will turn it over to Megan to give you some highlights of where things looked as of March.
Hello, everyone. Can I hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So through March, see that we're showing a deficit spending of 5.5 million, revenues totaling just over 4 million, expenditures just under 10 million. And you're going to see that throughout pretty much the first half of the year until August or September, just due to the fact that the county's largest revenue base is our summer tax levy, and that's not collected until then. So that pretty much explains the deficit spending. If you look at revenues in a little bit more detail, you can see that we're pretty much in line with last year. Revenues falling short just about 400,000 from the same point as where we were at last year. And most of that is in the tax line, and it's pretty much due to the fact that there are some timing issues when we do accrual entries for taxes. So revenue collections are pretty much in line with last year through March. Again, as Kelly mentioned, the COVID crisis kind of started to erupt in March. So we're probably not going to see a lot of effects until April or May financials. Taking a look at expenditures in a little bit more detail. Again, we're pretty much in line with last year when it comes to spending. We're currently at 21% of our budget, as opposed to last year we were at 22%. About a quarter through the year, you would expect us to be around 25%. So we're slightly below our expectation, which is a good thing. You're gonna see most of our savings this year are showing up in the fringe benefit line. We saw a lot of savings last year when it came to fringe benefits with some rearrangement of the plans, introduction of a new HSA plan. It's really helped out the county when it comes to our fringe benefit cost. So that is a fantastic thing. One thing to notice is that drain assessments were assessed earlier. Well, they were recorded earlier this year than last year. So it's about a $244,000 recording that happened in March of this year rather than later. So you're just going to see a little bit of variation between this and last year until later on in the year for drain assessments. Special revenue funds are all pretty much on track. They're at or below budget when it comes to expenditures. And then one other change that we have made this year in regards to the financial statements is that we're including the county road department statements in with the county statements. And that's just a way to reduce some of the agenda items. The same amount of information is going to be presented, it's just in a different format. So I see that revenues are at about 7% of budget for the road department. This is the general story for road revenues is that they lag about 2 months because their large revenue stream is MTF funding, and we don't get those until 2 months after the month in which they're earned. So we are only showing January revenues for MTF through March. Expenditures are at about 13% of budget. We're on track when it comes to regular operational spending. Obviously, our winter spending is high because it only happens during certain parts of the year. Half of our winter spending happens the first half of the year, and then half of our winter spending happens in the second half of the year. And then you'll notice, so we're not even close to 25% as a percentage of our budget spending. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have large budgeted expenditures for the Emmett Township LRP. So our expenditures are going to rise significantly as construction season starts, as we get about 50% of that Emmett Township project done, and will be more in line with what expectation would be. And then last but not least, I did include some of the COVID-19 costs that we've been monitoring and incurring. So the county is acting as kind of a fiduciary for the Joint Operations Center. We are tracking the cost for the JOC in our county general ledger. So most recent costs for the JOC specifically, as of 4/28, when these were added to the agenda, totaled about $200,000. You can see how that's split up. Most of those costs are going to be reimbursed through FEMA Public Assistance Grant, and federal guidelines for FEMA PA say that there's a 75%, 25% cost share on there, which the county and the other municipalities that are participating in the JOC, they can use donated items and volunteer hours to show as their local share. So 25% of our total cost for the JOC won't necessarily be cash flowing out of the county and the surrounding municipalities. So just a little caveat on that. When it comes to county specific expenses through 4/28, we had been tracking personnel and fringe totaling just over $250,000. And most of those were actually already budgeted expenditures. So these are people that are working on COVID-19 related items, but we're already budgeted to be working at that time. So overtime total costs when it comes to COVID-19 total just above 35,000, and those are over and above what we would have budgeted. So when it comes to FEMA reimbursement, those are the costs that are actually going to be reimbursed on the 75-25% split. And then we have supplies and other totaling around 13 grand. And then down at the bottom, I just noted some of the funding sources that we have identified for the county and the Joint Operations Center. We have 30,000 coming from MDHHS for emerging threats funding. We have 125,000 coming from MDHHS, and that's for COVID-19 specific response within the health department. The FEMA Public Assistance Grant, which I touched on lightly, we have 50,000 coming from, or that already came from the United Way from their disaster relief fund, and that has been helping us with our isolation and quarantine site costs. And then we have just over 58,000 coming from the Department of Justice in the form of a burn JAG grant, and those are for public safety costs that are directly related to COVID-19. So like Kelly said, we're continually, daily monitoring our revenues and expenditures when it comes to this crisis, and we will just keep an eye on it as things continue to change.
Thank you, Megan.
Can I have a motion to accept Calhoun County's first quarter 2020 financial statements as presented?
So moved, Hatcher.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Support, Vetty.
Hatcher move, Vetty support. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins, I'll come back. Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins, are you on?
You seem to have lost him.
Well, we have 6 yes and 1 offline right now.
Okay, motion carries.
Am
Check. Okay, no messages from him. I'm not sure what happened, but we have lost him. Okay, we're going to move on to our second citizen time. The rules, same rules as the first time. 2 minutes. Please, no negative personal comments. Please mute TV or computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate feedback. Please.
It looks like Commissioner Thompson is an attendee.
There he is.
Welcome back.
Hey, sorry, when you're out in the middle of Amish country, sometimes that happens, so I apologize.
Okay. Citizens, any citizens that would like to address their commissioners? I don't see anybody even in the queue. Do you, Austin? Anyone would like to address their commissioners?
This is Shana. I don't see anybody, but Austin, are you there?
Yes, the slide's been up for about 5. We got no new call-ins.
Okay, about 10 more seconds and we'll move along. All right, well, if you see anybody jump in, Austin, let me know and we'll go back to it if we need to.
Will do.
Commissioner time. Hey, commissioners. Nobody?
Yes, if I could real quickly, please.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tompkins.
I apologize again for being disconnected. I just think through this whole process from a technology standpoint, one of the things I found is obviously we're talking about COVID-19 and whatnot, the response. And one of the things that the federal government's really been focused on, and really something they're going to have to focus on, is we deal with how things have changed within the, not only with the process by which how schools will continue and whatnot, and how we're just in this, what we call a new normal. The rural broadband will certainly be something that will need to be at the top of the agenda moving forward, because it certainly is a problem, is not only, like I said, those of us that live in the rural areas do have a difficult time sometimes getting in, but also with the with how schools may change certainly in the future. So just a comment I wanted to make relative to that. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Mr. Tompkins, I'll just follow up to that with SMPC going through some process right now, and that is one of their things they're looking at heavily, of how to expand internet connection in the rural areas. So
you bet.
I think that's coming at the right time, and I think you're right. It's really changed the face of how we connect and what we need to connect, and especially identified the weaknesses of the rural areas. So
you bet.
So that is on their radar.
Excellent.
Any other commissioners?
Chair Frisbee.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate again, our staff is doing an amazing job and they're working a lot of long hours. I know Kelly is on Zoom after Zoom after Zoom meeting. She's got to be zoomed out. Megan Banning has really stepped up and done a great job. She, as she said, has been taking kind of a lead role with the daily unified command team meetings and with the budget and working with the city. So it's really nice to see. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. The thing I would add is that we see others struggling financially, other municipalities struggle financially, and we're in a spot where we're not in panic mode. We're in good shape. We're able to plan out what's going to come at us and kind of have a forecast for that. And I'm really proud that we're in that position, and all of you here tonight as commissioners have a hand in that, but our administration and finance team are certainly the biggest part of that. So we appreciate that. And it's good to be operating in a time of chaos when you're able to be the calm in the storm. So thanks to everybody for that.
Correct.
The only other concern I have is commissioner time is about MTS or Act 51 revenues, and I'm really getting concerned when I see state revenue forecast and I look at the amount of the gasoline prices have dropped almost $1 because of the lack of use. And what does that mean to Act 51 dollars? And I know Cram and others are going to have a good hand on that, but now that we're going to be paying a bond payment at the state level off the top of that of $900 million a year, boy, I hope it really doesn't have a huge impact on municipalities and counties especially. So, all right. Let's see, claims payable. Can I have a motion to approve claims payable for April 3rd, 2020 through April 30th, 2020 in the amount of $5,868,463.59 as presented?
So move Tompkins.
Move
Support
Tompkins.
Miller.
Support by Miller. Any discussion? No discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Any announcements? How many activities to promote right now are there?
Well, there's not.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no announcements, I think we've completed our agenda for the night. This meeting is adjourned.